directly from my great tome of holding, or at least one of them. This is the one devoted to solitaire print and play games. Today I want to tell you about Night Class, a free print and play roll and write game in which you play the role of a superhero. You will need a different sheet of paper every time that you play it, so either you print a bunch of them or you draw the map, I believe, but that won't work very well because you also need a lot of other information here. Or you print a single one, then you laminate it and you use a dry erase marker. As long as you have the laminating machine at home, because these are not days in which I'm gonna encourage you to go out of the house and do anything but groceries. These are difficult times. These are times of social distancing. If the expression is still new to you, it means stay the heck at home and go out only once a week to the groceries, and that's it. So this is why I'm placing an emphasis on print and play solitaire games that I hope you play at home instead of going out. Night Class, you're a superhero in training. Yes, you still have to figure out a lot of things. Basically, there are only 2 skills that you know at the beginning. You know how to rescue hostages and you know how to punch, and that's about it. You find a hero name. For example, we're gonna be the X dude, and you create an emblem. For my emblem is gonna be pretty simple, the X of X dude with a circle, just because. Now, in this game, you're gonna move on this map. You're gonna try to defeat some of the villains. You have thugs, you have specific villains with superpowers, and then you have the super extra boss, which is general relativity. In the game, you need to destroy these transmitters that are connected to bombs, as general relativity is gonna destroy the town. Otherwise, you need to destroy these transmitters and defeat him before it's too late, before the time runs out. If you do so, you win the game. You also may score extra points. You will score extra points by doing other things, such as saving hostages and defeating villains, but technically those are not strictly necessary. To play the game, so you will need a sheet of paper, such as this one, every time that you play the game. And if you wonder where to look for it, just Google Night Class PNP, print and play, and you'll find it. You'll need a sheet of paper, you will need 4 dice, only 3 of which you will use at the beginning of the game, and then a writing instrument. The general idea is this. Here you have the villains and their stats and their abilities. These bubbles here are the number of life points. Each time that you hit them, you color one in, and when you fill them all in, you defeat the villains. The villains will acquire upgrades as you fill in these boxes. So when you fill in a box next to one of these upgrades, they get extra range to hit you and they inflict extra damage. This guy also spreads fire around the map, which is painful, of course. Boom! If you ever fill in this box, then the bombs blow up all around town and you lose the game. You also lose the game if you go down to 0 stamina, and that means that you're dead. You also lose the game if you fill in all of the trust. Maybe you should call it mistrust, distrust, skepticism, because it seems funny that the more you fill in the trust track, the more trust you get, the worse it is. But the idea is that the public opinion loses trust in the heroes. And so I like this actually, because there are many other superhero games in which you just defeat people and that's it. It kind of like makes it hard to see if you're a superhero or supervillain. Here actually the public will lose trust. You get a penalty here if you inflict more damage to an enemy than necessary to defeat them. And that's great because superheroes shouldn't kill. I guess that represents the fact that you killed one, oopsie, inadvertently or for fun, and then you pay the cost in loss of trust. Back to us. You will, at the beginning of each turn, you will roll 3 dice, at the beginning of the game especially, and then you will choose one to assign to plot. This is always the first thing that you do. Once you do so, you then need to fill in a box, a square box with the range, in the range indicated here. For example, this is a 5. You can always fill in a box in the trust track because they're 1 to 6, so it's always in range whatever you roll. But again, remember, if it's filled up when it's bad. Or the villains. For example, you can fill in an enhanced thugs box for a 5 or 6, breakout 3 or 4, burnout 2 or 3, and general relativity 1 to 2. And suppose that for the plot, then I decide to fill in this one. Basically, plot is bad, is when the enemies become stronger. It also acts as your countdown, because either this is filled up or this one gets filled up, then you lose the game. So every time you take a turn, one die will force you to fill in one of these. And deciding which one it could be a good idea. All the villains have at least one box, so then when you fill in, you don't have any penalty, but that won't last forever. So after you assign one to plot, you're left with several dice, and you can do several things. You can assign them to move, you can assign them to train, you can assign them to actions. Move is pretty self-explanatory. You move by the number of spots. You move on the board. This is your starting location. You mark your ending location. If I understood the rules correctly, you don't mark every step in which you go. And so, for example, if I decide to assign this one to move, then I move 1 and 2. Not that great. But then X dude goes there. You cannot end movement in a location where you ended movement earlier in the same game. That's why you mark that. Maybe next turn I move by 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I mark my location there. You can also train. When you train, basically you get, for each train action, each time that you commit a die to a train, the train action, that was silly. You can fill in one of the hexes. That will improve your character. For example, at the beginning of the game, you can only take one action because you only have one slot where to place dice to get actions. If you have a 4 or more, the die for training needs to be in that range. If you have a 4 or more, ta-da, then you assign it to train and you use it to fill in this box, for example. So now in the future I could assign 2 dice to training. If you roll a 7 or more, then you use a train action to fill in this box here. Now you have 4 extra stamina points. I wonder, how the heck do I roll 7 or more? Because there is a training for that, which is the unlock upgrade. That means if you use a 6 in the train to fill in this space here, then now you have a +3 on your training die, which allows you to go all the way to 9, which is the maximum cost of some of the abilities. So suppose that later I unlock this one in a later turn, I assign a 6 there, and then I decide to fill in that one. Then I can deal 2 damage to an enemy within 4 spaces. Suppose that after a couple of turns I have also upgraded that ability, and that ability. So you will have a bunch of these, and you really should have a bunch of these, because you're learning how to be a superhero. Because some of these upgrades that you get are ongoing, as you can see. You get extra dice, extra stamina, that bonus there. If you get that upgrade, then you can move more because you get +2 to your move die. But these are really the actions that you can perform. And so when you assign dice here, for each die that you assign there, regardless of result, so this is where you want to dump the bad dice, you get to activate one of your actions. Suppose, for example, that in this turn that I just took, I resolve my plot, whatever that was. I rolled a 1, I assigned a 1 or 2 to plot, so I did that. Next, I assign of my other 2 dice, I assign 1 to move, and so I move 1, 2. So I'm next to that thug there, and I decide to use one of a die for an action, and the action is, for example, just one of those that you have at the beginning, deal 1 damage to an adjacent non-diagonal enemy. So I decide to spend that action to do so, and I cross that out because it only takes 1 hit to defeat a thug. If I was in range to attack another villain, suppose I am there, for example, and I decide to use my ability of the stun baton, which is deal 2 damage to an enemy within 2 spaces in a straight line. So I use that ability to do that. Booyah! I fill that in. And that would be how I can use my actions to attack. And also, later, you can use one of your training abilities. First, you need to get the +3. Then you roll a 6. +3 is 9. Then you get to unlock that one, which gives you a much-needed 4th die. So, that's pretty much the general idea. Roll your dice, 3 or 4, assign one to plot, and then assign the other ones and resolve them in whatever order you prefer. Take an action, then move, then train, get a new action that then you're gonna activate right away, hit the opponent, then move away from the opponent, whichever combination. So there's great flexibility here. However, once you're done, then you check. If you are within range from an opponent, the opponent attacks you. For example, Breakout starts with a range of 3. So, and it can be increased later when plot boxes get filled in. Range of 3 then means that at the end of the turn, I check I am in range from Breakout, and I take that amount of damage, which is 2 points of damage. I fill in those boxes, and that is not good. But do I know? Because I had, did I not? Oh gosh, did I not get the body armor? Yes. Oh, that was lucky, because I totally, without cheating, had totally trained to get the body armor, so I reduced the damage by 1. So that's the damage that I take. Also, however, Breakout's punch moves me out 2 spaces away, so now my position is here instead. Most likely, if I am there, it's because I had defeated that thug, because I don't want to be in range of being attacked at the end of the turn by both this thug and Breakout. So that's pretty much the general idea. To destroy a transmitter, you simply need to attack it and inflict 1 point of damage. It's exactly the same procedure. And so that's how it works. I really like the stealth bike, because it gives you great flexibility, because it allows you to move 3 space and then attack, and then use an attack if possible. So you can use a normal attack, then use the bike to move away and attack somebody else. Great flexibility there. Definitely one of my favorite upgrades. General relativity slows you down. To get close to general relativity, you need to spend 2 movement points for each space. So maybe you shoot at him from outside his field of relativity. I guess they didn't think about that, huh? And also, when it hits, it gives you 4 points of damage. So that's tough, and you need to inflict 5 points of damage. So this is pretty much a little bit of a puzzle, because you really need to time it in such a way that you're exposed to his attacks no more than once, because even with the other upgrades in stamina, it's going to be very tough. So this is the general idea, Knight class. It sounds convoluted, but then on the plus side, the fun stuff is that you have a lot of flexibility, because you can train your hero in a lot of different ways. You can assign different things to boxes here. You may defeat a hero, and then you have, a villain, and then you have some boxes here that can fill in to dump plot dice when the villain is not there anymore, so that doesn't do anything. Again, I like how you have to make decisions to how you slow down the plot damages, and you can take some trust hits. You should take some trust hits, because maybe I'm just planning to attack Breakout next time, and I don't want him to get that upgrade there, and so I'm gonna dump a plot die here. So I have to deal with these toxic, annoying dice. That's a big part of the game. Here, slow down the advance of evil, I guess. But then again, move and train, move and action. The complete flexibility, not just in what you upgrade, but the order in which you do it, and then the order in which you create actions, that it makes the game really fun. So it's a lot more complex, or considerably more complex, than some of the other solitaire print and play, roll and write, or draw and write games that I reviewed in the past. But I think it's worth the trouble. I found it enjoyable. Maybe the only problem is that after 3-4 times that I played it, I kind of started falling in a certain routine. I had a general plot of what would be the best idea. I started optimizing, if not the order in which I get actions necessarily, the path that I follow. I think I found one that really is effective and increases my chances of winning. I'm not going to tell you which one it is, so at least it will take you hopefully 3-4 games to figure it out. But even then, I still haven't figured out how to win, quote unquote, the best possible way with the best possible score, also saving all the hostages. So there's still optimization, but the excitement of defeating the villain and preventing the bombs, so that goes away after a couple of games because you can probably figure out how to do it. I've also read online that there are other episodes based on the same system, so once you have the game system you can look for the other episodes, and then you have different maps, which I also have read ramp up the difficulty quite a bit. But for a game that you can print and play for free from the safety and coziness of your home, this is quite an impressive achievement. It's fun. It's entertaining. It's a nice little puzzle. The theme appeals to me, and I think it is actually portrayed very well, better than in a lot of games that are published by professional publishers, and you actually have to pay money to play them. Especially that touch that you should not kill the villains, you should not inflict more violence than strictly necessary, otherwise the public opinion goes down. That to me is a really nice touch. Night Class, overall, really enjoyable, just a great game for the difficult, confusing times in which we all live.